Welcome today. It's Maury Weinstein, President Co-Founder of System Source, talking about Microsoft licensing updates, including how to beat the July price increase. To Microsoft's favor, there usually is a way to stagger, delay, freeze pricing or promotions or something. They practice a lot of fairness in doing this, but we've got to learn about it, and it's going to take a full hour to get a briefing over to you, including the July price increase freezing. So let's get started. You're welcome to put thoughts together in chat or questions. We hope you're enjoying your pizza. That pizza is certainly looking better than my salad. And if you haven't received your pizza, don't hesitate to check your front door or reception desk and then contact Julie at jdellinger@syssource.com. Thanks, Julie, for putting together today's event. During the webinar, we'll be in presentation mode until the end where we can take Q&A, but you're welcome to put your thoughts in anytime. Don't hesitate to view the webinar in full screen mode. Sometimes there's plenty of data in some of our webinar presentations. You can also tell us what you'd like to learn today. If you've put a comments in when you did your registrations, we have those in front of us, so you don't have to repeat that. I thought I'd go to commercial for about 12 seconds, and then we'll get right into the meat of the presentation. Many clients come to us first to mature their IT or audiovisual operations. That's a common theme. We use our learning center to help do that. We train many hundreds of people a month, largely virtually, some of them in person, in lots of topics, a lot of application training, technical training, and a big AI focus at the moment. We did train 1,082 people in AI in 25 last year. We use the work of our presentation systems group, who builds conference rooms and classrooms and huddle rooms and Teams rooms and auditoriums. All of that goes on in that area. I never thought I'd be head of a bit of a construction company, but there's a lot of work going on in that area. Consulting is where we keep our heavy hitters. These folks average 30 years of tenure with us. They do all of our cloud migrations, all of our security analysis. All of that goes on in our consulting forces. Cloud services is code word for our data center. We've been running a data center since 1995, so we took our cloud blinders off many years ago. But today, much of our current work, of course, is being done at Azure and AWS. Service and support can be done two different directions. One is reactively, when you call us when it all falls apart. That's not an easy area of the business, but most of our work today is done in managed services, which is a proactive offering. If we maintain efficiently enough, there may be enough money left over in the budgets to refresh the environment. And that's the work of our configuration center and warehouse here attached to our Hunt Valley headquarters. That's System Source today. On behalf of the 65 of us, we say thank you for joining us. If you haven't been to the System Source Computer Museum, it is large and it is increasing as we speak. I don't want to steal the museum's thunder, but we have the ENIAC emulated in cardboard. It has just arrived. If you have friends, neighbors, relatives who might be interested, we'd love to give them a tour. It's a fun tour. Our management event series starts with what you're seeing today, but there's lots of other management sessions, non-specific results you should expect from your IT services provider. Verizon's analysis of 22,000 security incidents. You're going to see another refresh of that as the Verizon report is reissued. Hopefully not too many pages. It's not bedtime reading. Last year's was 110 pages, but we'll have that summarized for you in another session. Maximizing cyber insurance coverage. There's lots of good stuff here. I hope you enjoy some of them. Don't hesitate to keep an eye on your email screen or the front of our webpage. All of these would be open for enrollment in one of those places. Our upcoming webinars in front of you are three of them. Stopping AI supercharged email security attacks with the Barracuda product line. VMware alternatives to avoid their massive price increase is a popular one. And I'll be reappearing in Managed IT Services 10 specific results you should expect. That would be close to the end of May. Hope to see you there. In agenda today, we have 8 licensing updates. It is not comprehensive. I'm sure I could go further, but we only have an hour together. Measuring licensing provider quality, really important. In mature IT operations, your vendors are working for you rather than against you. And to have the right licensing provider is absolutely important. We'll talk about a quick checklist on that one. What to do if your provider doesn't meet expectations, important discussion, and who's going to support all this functionality. There's about 5,000 configurations in the Office admin portal. Who's going to support all that? Those are worthwhile for discussion. Starting 1 through 8, in no particular order. Licensing updates number 1, 3 security suites for Business Premium. Those of you who have Business Premium, you know it's sort of the sweet spot of the Microsoft product line. Business Premium is part of the Business Series, and Business Series means less than 300 users. That's what defines Business Series. So for less than 300 users, Business Premium is the sweet spot, and you're going to see that Microsoft has renamed their security mini suites. The M365 E5 mini suites have been renamed. They have two names now. One is Defender and the other is Purview Suite. So that's an update. So let's drill down into what these offer. So we can see that the Defender Suite is right here and the Purview Suite is right here. Business Premium is to your left, and this is a combination of the two suites right here at the bottom. So that's how this page is organized. So the Defender Suite for Business has some interesting pieces in it, and you'll decide how interesting. But the most interesting one and the most valuable one is probably P2. That's Entra ID P2. You'll remember that P2 gives us all the power of Microsoft to make sure that the bad guys don't enter our organizational inboxes, our mailboxes. So making sure that logins are secure is the goal of Entra ID P2. We've been using it for years. It is $9. Now I'll be quoting you prices. These prices are all pre-July increase. I think that price goes to 11 in July. I can double check that. So Entra ID P2 is part of the package. There are a lot of customers buying it for $9 each, and the entire suite is $10. So these rest of the pieces here don't have to be too worthwhile. They only cost $1 more. One of which, of course, is Defender for Office 365 Plan 2, and that is sort of the email filtering for in the world of Microsoft. Defender for Endpoint, you recognize, is the P2 version of the antivirus. So there's quite a bit in there. Purview is $10, and this is becoming more popular because some of these pieces are integrated with CoPilot. So if we want to increase our governance and our security in CoPilot, Purview Suite might be worth looking at. And when you add them together, it's $15 instead of 20, and we'll drill down a little more right now. So Defender Suite for Business Premium, we talked about Entra ID P2. There's where you get your risk-based conditional access, visibility into risky logins. This is sort of famous for having what do they call it? Travel, where it's there's a term for it. I just lost it. But they're actually looking at things like a login was seen in Chicago, and 2 minutes later, one from San Francisco was seen. Well, of course, you can't transfer between Chicago and San Francisco in 2 minutes, so that triggers a risky login, which you can handle in any number of ways. You can block it. You can require that the end user refresh and change his or her password. All kinds of possibilities there based on the conditional access that you set up. So that's Defender Suite. Then we can take a look and see that the pieces currently are $28.28. Microsoft is discounting them to $10. Now I should underscore the power of P2, that's Entra ID P2, because this is our internal data showing fraudulent logins into our customers' 365 accounts. The shape of the line looks good. We have here in the middle, we had about 8 or 9 months with 0. That's good. Our customers are having better licensing. They're doing better in their phishing examinations. A lot of good stuff going on here. But you did see a rough quarter here. We did have one new client who was clicking away, and hopefully we'll be able to bring that back down again. But that's what happens with new employees or new clients when you introduce them to the world of phishing. They have some time in adjusting. So that's our internal data. It shows that as we mature, and especially with some of the new licensing like P2, we can produce some results together. This curve could have easily gone the other direction, but didn't. So there is some hope. This is a graph of hope. Here comes the Purview suite. Purview talks about inside risk management, information protection, DLP. Again, there is some integration here with CoPilot. So if you're a CoPilot shop, you do want to take a peek at this and make sure you understand where you are in governance. It is about $19 worth of goods. Microsoft discounts it to $10. And remember, if you buy the two together, it's only $15. So it's about half off in this particular example. Here's the $15 package here. It's about $50 worth of items. And again, we've sold all of this at these prices. So Microsoft's not making this up. And Microsoft now charging 15 for that. That assumes that you have business premium as an underlying license. Hopefully that's of some value to you. That's a change. I'm going to number two. Microsoft has what they call standardized the pricing, which could be interpreted as increased pricing for online services in their volume licensing. So in November, Microsoft announced that they're standardizing the pricing for online services, which includes Microsoft 365, through their volume licensing program. So in their EA agreements and their MPSA agreements, as they renew, these are generally 3-year agreements, as they renew, some of the price bands known as A, B, C, and D won't be as low as you have them today. Now, there's no discounts for Azure in the enterprise agreements, and government and ed pricing are excluded. And there's no changes to on-premise software pricing. These EA agreements usually are a combination of on-premise software pricing like Windows Server, SQL Server, and so on, and the online services, which is Microsoft's code name for Microsoft 365. So if you're in these price bands B, C, D, your next renewal will be not as aggressive, and you may want to take a look at our channel. We call it the CSP channel of resellers, because they won't. You may do better if the Microsoft compresses the A, B, C, D price levels for your enterprise agreements. Enterprise agreements, by the way, kick in roughly at 2,400 users, roughly, so that many customers are not eligible or would not be in line for these agreements. These are for large accounts. There's actually a shortcut here that you may want to consider for those of you who have EA agreements. We do have clients that give Microsoft the minimum in their contract in order to get the contract, and that's usually 500. And they give us or some CSP partner everything beyond that. So we have a client who committed to Microsoft to get the EA agreement for 500, and the 600 or 700 other licenses that they have, or 800 or whatever the number is, has been placed with us. What happens is you get a lower term commitment. Remember, EA agreements are usually 3 years, maybe always, and the term commitment on CSP licenses is generally 1 year. Do you see where this is preferable? In most situations. So that's the lower term commitment. And there are certain promotions that are open only to the CSP channel that EA customers are not eligible for. So there are reasons to split. And I think you may want to think about that if you're an EA customer. Moving on to licensing update 3, CoPilot licensing. I'm going to leave you with a copy of the deck after today's presentation so you can read this. But basically, employees with 365 CoPilot licenses can now use agents built into CoPilot Studio. So there is a change in licensing there. Won't affect too many people on this call, I don't think. But this one might be a little more important. Some of you have Copilot licenses, Copilot for sales, Copilot for service, Copilot for finance. Remember that Copilot has been used 58 times in the Microsoft product line. So it can be a little confusing. And Microsoft has put that functionality into the M365 Copilot license at no additional charge. So there may be some savings there for those that have Copilot for sales, service, or finance. I'll leave you with the rest of the slide when you get a moment if you're involved in any of those packages. Let's talk about Copilot itself. There was a change that you may know about, you may not. It'll impact a few of you perhaps. Copilot chat for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, OneNote. Now remember, this is Copilot chat, not M365 Copilot. They're different packages. So chat is the baby version. That is free with most Microsoft software. However, it's not true at organizations greater than 2,000 users. This is the first time we've ever seen functionality change based on the size of the tenant. So if you're greater than 2,000 Microsoft users, you will not have Copilot chat for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. But those below it have that. Now, of course, if you're an M365 Copilot license user, you don't need Copilot chat because M365 Copilot is a superset of Copilot chat. So it's the first time we've ever seen that. It's a strange situation, and it was announced just a few months ago that those that are over 2,000 users in their tenant do not get chat for Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and OneNote. Monthly Copilot licenses for those that want to experiment are now available at a 20% premium. Copilot was issued just a couple years ago. There was never a monthly license option until now. Moving on to licensing update number 4, and that is license term premium. We know that monthly licenses are available at 20% premium. Nearly all licenses are available on a monthly basis with a 20% premium, and some of you might want to consider it. It's a little bit overlooked feature of the Microsoft offering because some of you have near-term staff reductions or maybe large numbers of interns during the summer or doing peak periods like tax time. So for you to have 95% of your licenses on a 1-year agreement and 5% on a monthly in order to cancel them any month after the peak season is over might not be a terrible idea. So think about that when you're it's renewal time if you have varying licensing counts. Moving on to licensing update number 5. Prices are going up. It is a key part of today's presentation. We take a look, and this is just 6 or so, looks like 8 or so, of the price changes. Now, you will see some that have no changes. So for many of you, Business Premium, which our under 300 person clients rely on pretty heavily, are not changing. Office 365 E1 is not changing, but everything else going up fairly rapidly. Here's M365 Business Basic at 16% going from $6 to $7. Here's Office 365 E5 going up 8% from 38 to 41, just as examples. Now, this is not comprehensive. These are just suites with Teams in front of you. There are plenty of pieces and plenty of suites, I suspect, without Teams that are going up also. I just wanted to show it to you without straining your eyesight. How to freeze today's pricing? Here's how to do it. So we know the pricing goes up July 1st. And there's no delays or extensions or anything like that. When Microsoft changes pricing, it's changed. There's no exceptions. You renew before July 1st, and of course, whatever your renewal is, Microsoft protects the pricing during that renewal. Nearly all the renewals are 1-year contracts, so you'd have 1 year of the frozen pricing if you renew before 2026. Most of our clients renew during Q1 for various Microsoft related reasons. So they're going to be protected against until Q1 next year. Now, another thing you can do is buy a 3-year contract. A 3-year contract means the pricing will be frozen for 3 years. Now, here's the problem. If you're in the Office 365 series, that's E3 or E5 or Business Premium for that matter, which is not going up in price, but you still may want to freeze the pricing, there are no 3-year contracts. So 3-year contracts are only available in a tiny subset of the Microsoft product line. 3-year contracts are generally available in this series right here, M365, E3, and E5. I have a listing of 3-year contracts if you need it, but this generally revolves around M365, E3, and E5 series. E7 also has 3-year contracts. So that would not be a bad idea, especially given that Microsoft has increased prices over the years, and a frozen price might be helpful. Now, the reason I talked about nonprofit, and I suspect there are some nonprofits on the call today, is that there is a minimum of 100 users in order to get a 3-year contract. If you're a nonprofit, I believe that minimum is 1. That's why I stress nonprofit right here. So to get a 3-year contract for M365 E3 and E5 for a nonprofit is fairly easy. You only need one subscription. But to get it for M365 E3, E5 for commercial accounts, you'll need 100 minimum to buy a 3-year contract. The other thing you can do is to buy one new annual subscription. Stay with me on this. So you can freeze today's pricing. Remember, once you buy the subscription, Microsoft does not change the pricing until renewal time. So you buy one, quantity one, on a new annual subscription that will freeze today's pricing for how long? 1 year, right? Because it's a 1-year contract. Then you can roll the licensing that you have today that expires in 2027, largely Q1, not always. Our clients are Q1. And you can roll that to the subscription with the frozen pricing on it. Hopefully everyone's with me. I'll go through it one more time, take the highlighter off. You can buy one new annual subscription to freeze today's pricing for 1 year. And then number two is to roll the licenses that are expiring next year to that subscription that contains today's pricing. It'll give you about, if you renewed like most of our clients during Q1 of February-ish, it'll give you about 4 months of frozen pricing. If you're a small client or you have small licensing, or you're a nonprofit and have small licensing, because Microsoft discounts most nonprofit licenses around 75% off. So licensing doesn't cost very much for nonprofits. This might not be interesting to you, but there is a method behind the madness, and that is how to freeze today's pricing. Happy to go through this one-on-one with you. Let's go on to licensing update 6, changes to the free grace period policy. This one's pretty important also. And talking about the new extended service terms, what they call EST. So today, if you have a non-renewed subscription, it continues for a while, but that has changed as of May 1st. So now customers either renew, cancel, or move to this extended service term to continue service, and Microsoft wants money for that. It's a 3% uplift on the monthly pricing, which is generally 23% total, because we already learned today that monthly pricing has a 20% premium. So it's about a 27%, 23% uplift. But so if you're late on your renewal, decision making, PO creation, whatever roadblock you have, it could get expensive. Now, once a subscription moves to EST, you can stay there, you can cancel it, or you can convert it to a paid subscription. But you really want to stay out of this EST territory if you can. So above all, with this vendor, with Microsoft, each vendor has different terms as to what happens if you go past the expiration date. But with Microsoft, you go into EST for the first time. There were probably a lot of clients who were delaying their decisions, and Microsoft wasn't getting any money for it. EST applies to license-based services across all channels. It has nothing to do with our channel. It's across all channels, all term lengths, and includes commercial, public sector, and end-of-sale part numbers. So that's important to know. Answer the question, what happens when you delay your renewal decision past the renewal date? And the answer is you go into this EST status at 23%-ish above what you're paying today if you have a 1-year contract today. Hopefully that opens your eyes to that. On licensing number 7, let's talk promotions. For years, Microsoft had a limited number of promotions. And when you've been in business as long as we have, 44 years, you've seen a lot of vendors that have a lot of promotions that involve a lot of hair pulling, a lot of memorization, a lot of difficulty, a lot of complexity. Microsoft, to its credit, had a fairly small number of promotions until the last 12 months or so. Now they have lots of promotions. So now we've got to spend time on it. Here's one way to look at it. This is the offering lineup for CoPilot. There are 8 prices for the same CoPilot functionality, 8 prices. So here goes. Number 1 here on the left-hand side, you can buy CoPilot Business for $18 a month. Remember that many of you, and Microsoft originally was charging $30. That was the original price that went on for a couple of years. So $18 is the promo price. Remember, with the word business, you know what the word business means. You've got to be under 300 users. So 15% off, $18 is price number one. If you have one of these business licenses, and again, most of our clients have business premium licenses, there's a lot of bang in that buck, and they're not going up in price and so on. Then you can pick up a bundle with Copilot for Business at $32. Now, those of you who are great at math know that that's a $10 Copilot because the base license is 22 for commercial users. So 22 plus 10 is 32. So you can buy Copilot for Business for as little as $10 a month, assuming that you're under 300 users because you need to upgrade your business premium. It is actually an upgrade. Preview Suite, which we talked about a moment ago being $10, is actually $5 for business premium customers. Now, there is a minimum order size, which you can see right here at the bottom. If you don't have 10 in the subscription, you're not eligible for these prices. So I should note that the Business Copilot, otherwise known as Copilot Business, is the same functionality as the big product that you're used to, which is M365 Copilot. It's the same functionality. The only difference is it's licensed only to tenants below 300 users. So that's four prices for the same product functionality. Here's number five. That $30 is now $25.50, assuming you buy 10. At 100 plus, it's $24. One, two, three, four, five, six. Yeah, I'll show you two more in a moment for the seventh and eighth. Hopefully there's been some clarity there. Don't hesitate to ask questions in the question box or the chat box, and we'll get those out in the open for everyone to benefit from. But if you're buying onesies, you're at the $18 right here, right? There's no minimum you can see on the chart. So here are other promotions. There are many promotions here, but most of them replicate what you saw on the chart a moment ago. So I did not put them in here twice. So you can see Microsoft has between 10 and 20 promotions currently, much more than the four that we used to be able to keep in our heads. That's what really created the momentum for this webinar presentation. Number 6 and 7 in front of you are more Copilot promotions. 300 plus minimum quantity, 30% off. 1,000 plus minimum quantity, 40% off. Those are for accounts that have dedicated their users to Copilot. So those are the 8 ways to buy it. I should note that this asterisk right here, which I'll circle again, says what Microsoft calls NTO, that's new to offer. So you can't have any, is what their terms and conditions. You can't have any Copilot currently to be eligible for that offer. These terms and conditions do wander, and they were pretty complicated, but Microsoft has uncomplicated most of them just in the last 30 days or so. But we still see some NTOs which are new to offer. I should note that there are other promotions here besides Copilot promotions. One is M365 E3 and E5. That's a 3-year 10% off, 100 plus minimum. E5 annual term, 15% off, 1 minimum. Got to be new to the offer, NTO. So there's plenty here that you can look at after you receive the deck. Here are the E7 promotions. Remember, E7 is a brand new product. That is the $99 a month Microsoft new product. That's the M365 E5 plus the Agent 365 and more, all bundled together. And that's available as all the M365 enterprise products are on a 3-year basis if you want to. There is one thing that's not publicized here. It's interesting, not publicized. And that is for those of you who have M365 E3 licenses, and I suspect they're on this call today, P2, that's Entra P2, which has the improbable logins or improbable travel that Jack Smith on our call today has helped me with. Thanks, Jack. That's improbable travel when you log in from Chicago and then 3 minutes later you log in from San Francisco. That's one of the features that no one else has, as far as I can tell, in Entra P2, along with lots of other features to protect our customers' inboxes. That is only $3 a month. So there's the exclamation mark of the morning, afternoon. So for those of you who have M365 E3, Entra P2 is available for only $3, and that's a fairly new promotion, which is listed rarely in the lists of promotions. Licensing update number 8, features are increasing for existing licensing. That's good. Let's take a look at them. Now, just know that you're going to see some features here that you may really like. There are no dates on the implementation yet. They announced them to be companion with the July 1 price increase, but Microsoft's open by saying we will not have them ready, and we will not have some of them ready in time. So for example, if you're an Office 365 E3 customer, Microsoft Defender for Office Plan 1, which you know is their email filtering, will be included. They just haven't told you when. Here's another set of suites. This is the business suites, right? The prior slide was enterprise suites. Enterprise, you know, is above 300, although anybody could buy them. They are expanding the mailbox size. Now, many of you will like this because some of your users, especially as time goes on, have lots of mail, especially our engineering customers, our architectural customers, and so on. So that bigger mailbox will be in Business Premium, but they have not issued a date. What happens here is that some of our customers are moving from E3, that's Office 365 E3, to Business Premium. These customers, of course, would have to be under 300 users. Some of them need this mailbox or some archiving to make it work. But this particular formula, where the customer is moving from Office 365 E3 to Business Premium, produces substantial savings usually. We had a credit union that I was actually sitting in, and their savings for a credit union of 150-ish people was about $40,000. So it was significant. So if you can move from the Enterprise Series into the Business Premium, and we'd be happy to talk with you about it, and having the bigger mailbox allows more people to do that, you will see some savings. And savings in the world of Microsoft licensing, it's not easy to find, especially if it's substantial. Moving on to CoPilot for Education, they did release an $18 version, which you know is one of the prices that you saw, one of the 8 prices. But it includes Teach and Study to Learn. Teach is for instructors, Study and Learn is for students. There's some agents involved, so that if you're in the education environment, you might enjoy this. And when you get the deck later on, there is a link here. I'm going to move on to how to measure licensing provider quality. In order to do that, I'm going to show you a picture of a real tenant. What you're seeing in front of you is subscription status. This is the same reports you have in your tenant. One of the things you'll see in subscription status right in front of you is they all have different dates. That's a complete no-no. So if there's any chance you can get your vendor to go to a co-term date, that helps tremendously because you don't have to pull your hair out at multiple times a year. This particular tenant had many different dates in it, and this is just one page. This tenant went on to other pages. So anytime your vendor is not giving you a co-termed subscription, co-termed to whatever your favorite date is, as long as it's only one time a year, you know they're doing you a disservice. And we see about probably 80% non-co-termed. They're either too lazy to co-term, or they're caught up with some commission issue, because co-termed licenses, remember, are cheaper because they're not for a full year. So if you don't have co-term licenses, we need to help you work toward that. That's important. So let's look at a checklist for evaluating licensing vendors. I should also note in this case This screen shows multiple purchase channels. There's reseller, there's commercial direct, and maybe the other page had more. So they're buying from various channels, expiring at various times a year. This we see as typical. This is not a outlier. Okay, so keeping you informed of money saving promotions like we're doing today, make sure your vendor is doing that. Sending 365 monthly updates, which we do to our managed clients, make sure they're doing that. Ours is about 11 pages each month with screenshots. So you can distribute that to end users, hopefully for more productivity. There's dozens and dozens and dozens of changes each month to the 365 functionality. What we do here in house is we boil it down to relevant ones. They're usually about 11 pages worth, and send it out so you can send it out to users. Again, screenshots are already there. So those are our monthly updates. Managing your 365 portal with that 5,000 configurations in there, including privileged account reporting and so on. Lots more reporting that we can do there. That is all part of something your vendor should be offering you. Now, some of this costs money, some of it's free. That's somewhat immaterial. Just make sure your vendor is offering you all this or more. Co-terming subscriptions we just talked about. That is so important to keeping your time down in the licensing process. Advising prior to renewal to evaluate whether increased features allow you to downgrade your licensing. Remember, we just talked about Office 365 E3 that many clients properly advised, especially with the 50 gig mailboxes that Microsoft is promising with no date, but should be fairly shortly. Um, Allows you to download your licensing. You can only do that one time a year unless you have monthly licensing. So make sure that your licensing vendor can advise you easily on that. That's very important. That's where the big savings comes from. What to do if your licensing vendor is not proactively providing what we just talked about, best practices? Well, switching is doable. Microsoft has put this in place in the last couple of years. They call it P2P, partner to partner transfer. There is some lead time involved, not too much. So don't wait to the last minute before renewal on it. You can do it anytime during the term. The credit for whatever you've paid already that is unexpired term comes back to you from the current licensing vendor. We've done this a number of times. It works, but don't wait to the last minute because that produces all kinds of pressures. The other thing you can do, of course, is to let your licenses expire and then rebuy them from us or somebody who's a better licensing partner. That's for end of term switching. That's obviously the simplest case right there. Doesn't require any partner to partner transfer process. Answering the question, who's supporting the 5,000 features configurations inside the Office 365 portal? That's an interesting question. That has to do with insourcing versus outsourcing. And Gartner has a chart. Gartner, is the grandfather of research in the IT field. Gartner has a structure, a format to help you make that decision. They call it the run, grow, and transform model. The run, grow, and transform model from Gartner, says not all IT tasks are created equal. So let's put some tasks up on this chart. If you were putting in a new ERP system or a new dashboard system in your organization, that's in the upper right-hand corner. Why is it up in the upper right-hand corner? Because if you do it right, it gives you tremendous competitive advantage, but it requires a lot of intimacy with your environment. You have to know your environment well in order to put a new ERP system in or dashboard or whatever system in place. But there's lots of things in the bottom left-hand corner, like running backups or configuring 365 tenants or spam filtering or whatever, that doesn't provide as much competitive advantage and doesn't require as much intimacy with your environment. We don't need to know your businesses as well as the tasks in the upper right-hand corner. Then Gartner overlays the run, grow, and transform model and says the upper right-hand corner activities, you own those. Those are yours. Those in the bottom left-hand corner, like backups and so on, those are called run activities. Those you outsource, Gartner says. And the ones in the middle you partner with. Those are the grow tasks. Those are the ones that help your organization grow the 10 or 12% a year. That's normal organic growth. So there's lots of interesting things about the run, grow, transform model, but you can see there is some theory that says some of these low competitive advantage, low business knowledge tasks should be outsourced. And we actually have a scope just for people who want to outsource their 365 portal management. It doesn't have anything to do with workstation support, doesn't have anything to do with server support or patch or printers. All that is for somebody else. But we do have a scope just for Office 365 portal. It's a fixed price. So if it's helpful to have someone else manage your 365 portal with the 5,000 configurations underneath it, don't hesitate to let us know and we can price that up and talk to you more about it. In order to do that, we needed some designations. I could bore you with our designations among the 65 of us here at System Source, but here are three of them. These are Microsoft designations. These are important for one reason. When you ask a great Microsoft question and we can't answer it, it happens once every couple months. We then open a ticket with Microsoft, and if you open that ticket in their support queue level 1, you'll pull your hair out. In support level 2 or higher, you get some real answers from experts. Having these designations means that our support queues, our support requests start in higher queue position, which means we can get you answers more quickly. That's what these designations are for. So our support requests are start higher than other people's, and that's really important because Microsoft's level 1 support sometimes not pretty. So that's my update today. I should note our Learning Center has unlimited productivity training. There's an interesting twist here. For $18 a month, 10 user minimum annual commitment, you can have unlimited training among our Bits and Bytes and Megabytes courses. Those are the 1 to 3 hour sessions, virtual sessions. There are 58 different live classes ranging from Excel and PowerPoint and file management with SharePoint and so on. And that is an interesting retention. So those of you who are worried about retention in your organization, this is an interesting, very low cost way of tapping somebody on the shoulder and saying, you are a high potential employee in our organization. We want to make sure you have the training you need. Just an interesting management twist. We do have lots of other training here, largely application related, a lot of CoPilot, a lot of ChatGPT, a lot of file management across SharePoint, OneDrive, and so on. And you can see the number of titles here. There are 12 titles. Um, there are 8 titles here just in M365 applications. There's 10 titles just in Copilot Chat. 68 total titles that we manufacture here internally for training for AI, Microsoft 365, and Zoom. That total is 65 all by itself. So here's my final recommendation for today's presentation before we go to questions. And one is to mock up your renewal, factoring in changes from today's deck. So just go ahead and sit at the desk and check it off and mark it up to figure out where you're going preliminarily. Consider who should support your 365 portal. We talked about outsourcing that and Gartner's thoughts behind that. And if your vendor isn't lowering your licensing risk, time involved, expense, let us know. We'd like to work with you. So now's the time to ask about IT. Anything about it we can talk about. Thank you again to Jack for reminding me that improbable travel were the words I was looking for the P2 functionality. That's just one of many pieces of P2. I'm going to start while you think about what questions might be helpful to you or something we can learn from all of us, something you've tried, didn't work, all that is worth doing. I'm going to look over the questions you asked when you registered. I'll be using your first names only just to protect confidentiality. Javier, welcome today. Saving money, 365 licensing, promotions, delaying the price increase. Hopefully you saw something that would be helpful in your tenant. Lori, welcome. Microsoft licensing increased delays, delaying licensing anywhere from 4 months, depends on when your renewal is, to 3 years, depending on what licensing you have and what quantities are possible. It's interesting, Microsoft usually opens a window during these changes where people can delay, but you've got to research it just like we'd have. Jennifer, welcome today. Delaying price increases. Hopefully you saw that here today. Emily, thanks for joining us. Everything we need to know about licensing. Hopefully you saw that and more. Phil, welcome today. How to pay Microsoft as little as possible. Maybe they didn't want to hear that. Michael, see if I'm missing something. Hopefully you've learned something here today. Oh, Rick, welcome today, saving subscription money. And Jack, thanks again for the hint. And price increases had to delay are important discussions, especially at your size, Jack. There may be some money to be saved there. I'm going to be quiet for about 10 seconds so you can put your last remaining questions in, and I'd be happy to answer them. Go ahead, please. With no additional questions, we'll go ahead and close. Oh, thank you, Jack. Thanks for the compliment. With no additional questions, we'll close, but I'm available. I'll be here. I'll stay another 60 seconds in case you want to stay behind and ask a question with more privacy or maybe a longer explanation. And I appreciate your time. We'll turn the 14 minutes back today to you, and thank you for your time today. And thank you again.